I spent years saving our dying family business, and in the end, I was betrayed. Watching it crumble now is the greatest revenge. I practically dedicated my whole life to the family business. I had a promising career in the tech industry that I gave up to save the business during tough times. My family decided to thank me for my efforts by making my brother the sole heir. Honestly, this was the biggest betrayal of my life, probably the most disrespectful act anyone has ever committed against me. I decided to leave and start my own business, and how things turned out for my brother and the family business became the greatest revenge. To give you some context, my great-grandfather created a small import company that was passed down from generation to generation. My father and grandfather poured their souls and strength into it, and things were going quite well. But when I was 24, our family faced a tragedy. My father was in a serious accident that caused significant brain damage. He was paralyzed for almost 2 years, and my brother and I had to take over the business. My brother decided he didn't want the responsibility and essentially just fled. I didn't have the heart to abandon what I knew was so dear to my father. My great-grandfather died when I was about 9 or 10, and I knew he would be heartbroken if no one in the family took responsibility. At that time, I had just started working in the tech industry and already had a promising position, but I decided to leave, and I still don't regret it. I dedicated the best years of my life to this business, working hard for it to thrive. I didn't have huge success, but the company was making the biggest profits in decades. However, all my efforts went to waste when my brother, who hadn't put a single day of work into the company, inherited it. This was a real shock for me. My father passed away last month. After reading the will, I found out that almost the entire company was left to my brother. I remained the CEO and was supposed to receive a good salary, but the property went to my brother, and all decisions now depended on him. I didn't expect this, and honestly, I was extremely disappointed. I had put my heart and soul into the company, and my father's decision felt like a real betrayal. I asked my mother if she knew about this, and she said that my father had talked to her about it before his death. This was another blow to me. Their reasoning was that my brother needed to learn to take responsibility, and my leadership would help him with that. My mom tried to calm me down, saying that I would still earn just as much, but it was never about the money. I felt that all my efforts were devalued, and I deserved more. I didn't want to be a nanny to my brother and essentially take on all the responsibility while he enjoyed the role of chairman of the board. After much thought, I decided to leave the company. I didn't want to work a single day with my brother. I had enough savings to live on for a while as I considered my next career moves. I knew that with my experience and reputation, finding a good job wouldn't be too difficult, so I wasn't worried. So I resigned before my brother started working. Now, let me tell you about my brother. Even as a child, he was lazy, irresponsible, and constantly wasted money on foolish things. He liked living lavishly, but never even tried to make an effort to earn. We grew up in a fairly well-off family, and he got used to that lifestyle without thinking about how to pay for it. To put it bluntly, he took money for granted. I already mentioned that he refused to take responsibility when my father had the accident and the business urgently needed leadership. Nevertheless, at first, I hoped that he would try to change and start making the right decisions after becoming the sole heir. I tried to give him advice, but he always brushed me off, saying he knew what he was doing. It annoyed him that I resigned, and he rudely told me that he would manage on his own. It quickly became obvious that he had no idea what he was doing. He started spending the company's money recklessly, hiring his friends for positions they weren't qualified for, and throwing lavish parties to impress them. Meanwhile, our customers were becoming increasingly dissatisfied. After a few months of my brother's management, he decided it was time to get into manufacturing. This was my father's dream, but I had deliberately postponed it due to numerous difficulties. I think my brother considered himself competent enough to handle it. Spoiler, he wasn't. Less than 6 months after I left, the business began to collapse. The products were of such low quality that the company lost huge amounts of money without gaining a single distributor. The company was losing money at a catastrophic rate, and my brother had no idea how to fix it. I learned all of this because it became common knowledge. But then I started receiving calls and messages from some employees who remained in the company after I left. They begged me to come back and help save the business. At first, I was tempted to intervene, but then I remembered how my brother had treated me and how he had squandered everything I had worked so hard for. I realized that he needed to learn from this and decided to just observe. The best thing happened when my brother himself reached out to me. He said the company was in trouble and he needed my help to get it back on track. I asked him if he was ready to give up his position and make me the heir if I returned. He refused and offered me more money instead. I refused. It was never about the money. I left because I deserved more respect. Now, the company is almost bankrupt, and my brother is left with nothing. His friends have abandoned him, and now he has to deal with the consequences himself. Most of the employees were laid off, and many others left on their own. It's really a sinking ship. I can't say I don't feel tempted to gloat. After all, my brother made my life hell while I was working at the company, and now he's getting what he deserves. But I also understand that bankruptcy has real consequences for the employees who worked so hard for the good of the company. It's also bitter for me to realize that the business that had been in our family for several generations has collapsed to the ground. But I don't regret leaving. Update 1. Wow. I'm shocked by the response to my post. Thank you all for your support and encouragement. It was great to read your comments and realize that I'm not alone in such a situation. I took some time to think about my next steps, and I think I have a plan. In the future, I want to start my own business. But for now, I'll try to find a new job using my skills and experience. I look forward to where this journey will take me and will definitely keep you updated on my progress. I shouldn't have any problems with this, but in the current economy, you never know how things will turn out. Wish me luck. Update 2. A few months have passed since my last update, and I'm very happy to report that I found a new job. It's not as good as I hoped, but I think it's more than enough for now. The work turned out to be not easy, and I still have to get used to the fact that I work for someone and don't make all the decisions myself. As for the family business, it's a sad story. Many of you have asked about my brother and what he's been up to all this time. Well, the company is almost nothing now, as far as I know. He sold it and is currently experiencing financial difficulties. He had to sell his luxury cars and townhouse. I don't know where he lives now, and I no longer keep in touch with my mom. I know that my father left her enough money to live comfortably for the rest of her life, and I would help her if she ever needed it. I have a problem with my brother, not with her. It's a pity that it all turned out this way, but I've left it behind and look to the future with optimism. Thanks again for your support. It means a lot to me. Update 3. Hello everyone. Some time has passed since my last update, and I want to share some good news. I'm working on my startup. I worked for almost a year at a salaried job, and during that time I was able to gather the necessary resources. I now have a small team of dedicated employees, and we're working on several exciting projects. There has been a lot of work, but I am incredibly happy with how things have turned out. As for the family business, it has officially ceased to exist. It's a sad end to a long legacy, but sometimes that's how things go. I'm grateful for the lessons I learned on this journey and look to the future with optimism. Thanks to everyone for your support. It has been a great journey. Now it's time to start a new story. So be sure to write in the comments what you think about this whole story. It's unclear whether the father was of sound mind after the accident or not. I understand that he was not. Otherwise, how could he have done such a thing? Apparently, it's another story of the favorite child. As far as I understand, of course I have doubts about whether the author acted correctly. On the one hand, yes, he did the right thing, he took revenge on his brother, but on the other hand, maybe it would have been better to become the boss anyway, try to get the most favorable conditions for himself, build up capital, and then do some kind of business. Well, for example, I don't like to voice such sneaky schemes, but it's still a frequent story when you are just a director and you transfer some of the old clients to a new competing company. Well, the fact that he made some kind of startup, of course, is commendable. But nevertheless, no one promises that this startup will still succeed. Because as you know, according to statistics, only 1 out of 10 startups succeeds, or maybe 1 out of 100, depending on how many years you consider. In general, write in the comments if you agree with me. Also, watch our previous videos that you will see here, and good luck to you.